Wow, I tried to do the video from indoors here, but the air conditioning is blasting away so much it ruined the audio. So I had to come out. May need to use the old towel once in a while. It's about 32 degrees Celsius out here in Shenzhen.
Anyone who's visited China, anyone who lives in China, has eaten gutter oil. In other words, you've eaten oil that was floating around with turds and urine and dead animals and who knows what else. And of course, you've drank water that is completely unsafe for you. You cannot escape this. Take it from me. I lived in China for 14 years.
Oh, Winston Frederick Sterzel. That's hilarious. You're like, I've eaten gutter oil that was floating around with turds in it, and urine, and like dead animals, and who knows what else. Oh yeah, and you drank water that is completely unsafe for you. Oh, yeah, I mean, it is pretty funny, right? Yes, Winston Frederick Sterzel, this is the reply to the video that you posted yesterday. Less than 24 hours turnover.
In China, this woman is using a public water fountain as a toilet.
Let's overlook the fact that that clip is like 7 years old. The more important fact is that it has nothing to do with the title of your video, does it? You shouldn't be so damn lazy, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Do you know how much of a beating that woman took on Chinese social media for that? I mean, especially because right behind her, you can see there beside her, she was just outside of a shopping mall. You make it seem like a lot of this stuff is like a normal thing in China and nobody cares, right? Meanwhile, every clip in your video was shared many, many times on Chinese social media. Do you know why, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Even an adolescent could figure it out, but perhaps not you. So let me tell you, it's because nobody finds these behaviors acceptable.
At night, this woman collects filthy fountain water to boil your street food in.
To begin with, you don't know what that woman was going to do with that water, do you? How do you know that she isn't finished for the night and she's going to wash down her cart, Winston Frederick Sterzel? You don't, but don't let that stop you from being nasty, right? This was also shared on Chinese social media. This clip alone earned the woman over 900 nasty comments. Take a little time next time. Look at some of the posts. Read some of the comments, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You are so disgusting, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
This isn't a rare phenomenon. These street vendors collect diseased water from public waterfalls and ponds to prepare your delicious tourist food in. In China, gutter oil and spit oil is paired with fecal water to create that special flavor that tourists can enjoy.
Put aside that you inserted tourist, the word tourist, twice in this clip, making you very likely a tool of the US government. People found this clip disgusting, and it was shared by many, many people, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
So gutter oil hasn't slowed down even for a second in China. Here I just grabbed some clips from the past week to show you.
Clips from last week? Are you sure? Lazy and sloppy, as usual. That clip from the past week looks amazingly similar to these clips, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
味道，我开始以为他们是在邀请我，然后过去一看，全是油，烧烤店门口，以后都不会想去吃了。给我挖挖，小区 因为我是在等我朋友嘛，然后我就闻到一股很大的味道，我开始以为他们是在捞什么。
给我挖挖，小区里挖，给我挖挖，小区里挖，
陪女朋友去商。
给我挖挖，给我挖挖，给我挖。
我开始以为。
For the money you make, you can't do like just a little bit of homework? Again, this clip was shared by many people who were just disgusted. As a matter of fact, if this was common and acceptable, you wouldn't find any clips, would you, Winston Frederick Sterzel? I'm not going to go over each and every one of your clips that you posted, because we both know, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that you have clips you used before, even like a year ago. You also have several clips unrelated to the topic, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that you have already beaten to death on your X account and the China show, and that stupid channel, China Fact Chaser. I don't need to point them all out, do I? It's enough to point out the fact that you are lazy and ungrateful, Winston Frederick Sterzel. By the way, your claim that gutter oil is not slowing down, Winston Frederick Sterzel, is totally bogus and stupid. Probably during COVID, they started spray washing all the gutter openings every day. And they continue to do that to this day. I don't expect you to ever realize that, because you will never be here ever again, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
All very nasty stuff. But now you have to worry about fecal water too. See, water in China is unsafe. I can't express this enough. You cannot drink the tap water in China. There isn't one part of the country where it's safe to drink the tap water, or well water for that matter. Over 90% of groundwater in China is contaminated. Everyone has to drink bottled water.
I can't express this enough, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Let's take a little quick look over here and see who's drinking more bottled water per capita. USA is not number one in this category, but Americans do consume more than twice as much as people here in China. So lazy that you can't do like a simple Google search, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
But even if you do drink bottled water, beware. I filmed this myself, where people were filling up water cooler bottles with contaminated well water.
By the way, Mr. China expert, many people in China drink water from springs. You probably actually know that. You say it's contaminated with absolutely no proof of that in the video that you took. Imagine how old that is. But that's kind of your thing, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You just like make stuff up, isn't it? That's your thing.
China's society is riddled with cheats, charlatans, con men, and those willing to sacrifice their fellow citizens' health and safety for a quick buck.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Aren't you guys the ones saying like, we love the people, we just don't like the government, Winston Frederick Sterzel?
And although the spotlight has been shone on this problem countless times, sometimes brighter than others, such as the infant formula scandal that led to children dying.
How many children tragically died from the milk powder? And when did that happen, Winston Frederick Sterzel?
The government simply is incapable of stopping or even slowing down this phenomenon. This phenomenon of widespread cheating at the expense of people's health. The government is incapable of doing so because the government itself scams people and destroys the health of its citizens by not caring at all about what happens to them.
Not caring at all about what happens to the Chinese people, the Chinese government? Are you kidding? What was the result of the milk powder poisoning, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Oh, a couple of people were put to death.
It's dangerous eating food that you personally haven't prepared in China. And even if you do personally prepare it, the ingredients you buy from a wet market or even a well-known supermarket are never guaranteed to be real or safe.
Winston Frederick Sterzel, I think you know I'm not one of those people who makes comparisons with the US. Generally, I find that kind of content is like basically cringeworthy. I'm going to make an exception for this video right here. There were 6 deaths in the U.S. just last year related to food poisoning. Winston Frederick Sterzel.
At least 500 kids have gotten sick because they ate lead-tainted applesauce. And cantaloupe, contaminated with salmonella, caused 400 illnesses and 6 deaths.
We assume that the meat and the dairy products and the snacks, that we assume that they're safe, right? Because they're for sale. And in many cases, they're actually not.
Teresa Murray from the U.S. Perg Education Fund says the group's new report reveals there were 313 food recalls issued in 2023. That's an 8% increase from the year prior.
How often do you hear about officials of corporations in the U.S. being punished for food poisoning? Winston Frederick Sterzel.
You know, the vast majority of these are avoidable. And it's just a matter that the industry needs to do better.
There you go. The industry just needs to, do a little better. Punishment issues. As for restaurants, did you know some news outlets in the U.S. have dedicated weekly segments to expose the worst FDA failures of the week? Winston Frederick Sterzel. Actually, being that you live in the U.S. now, you probably know that, but you can't make any money there, can you?
New at 11, CBS 46 dishes out the dirty details on failing restaurant inspections every week.
During the past decade, we have encountered some nasty violations and some very intense confrontations.
Lastly, I remember that Gordon Ramsay was going to do a show called Kitchen Nightmares USA. They had to cancel it though. I mean, they couldn't find any nightmares in the USA. Oh my God. Why don't you watch an episode or two, since you really seem to be into expired food, rat feces, cockroaches, maggots, and flies, etc. on your food?
Look, dead. What is that in there? That is a raw dead lobster. That is disgusting.
This fly. I'm going to kill you if you don't f off.
You know, Winston Frederick Sterzel, I'm sitting here at a new Subway restaurant. You can probably see it here. This is my 3rd time here, and I believe it's a month old. The second time I was here, I saw one of the workers clear the tables and go right back into the kitchen without washing their hands. In the first couple of weeks the restaurant was open, they were way overstaffed. I think they had a dozen people working in there. You know, obviously for training, right? That's pretty common. I feel I can 100% guarantee that everyone was trained on washing their hands, obviously. It's a restaurant though, and they're human in there, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Since I knew I'd return someday, and I don't want people preparing my food with dirty hands, I waited a while and summoned the manager. Being who I am, I didn't want to single out, who actually did it, so I just brought it to the manager's attention that they need to reinforce the training, maybe do it again one more time. Winston Frederick Sterzel. I know it's a bit much for you to comprehend, Winston Frederick Sterzel, but that's the reason each of the clips you showed was taken, to point out a problem, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Obviously, the Chinese people do not need you or want you to speak out for them. You are welcome to stop anytime, Winston Frederick Sterzel. The Chinese people will be just fine without you. But you won't be fine without them, will you, Winston Frederick Sterzel?